So today we're going to be talking about regular ER, IR and RE verb endings. Don't forget to fill in your homework sheet as the video goes along, and of course you can pause, rewind and stop the video whenever you need to rewatch certain parts. These verb endings are going to be for present tense verb endings, so talking about the here and now, the present, rather than the past or the future. The reason I've titled this video regular ER, IR or RE verb endings is because some verbs don't follow this pattern, but the majority do. So unless you know otherwise, follow these rules that I'm about to show you. Another word for a verb when we're talking about languages is an infinitive. So an infinitive is just basically a fancy word for a verb. In French, infinitives or verbs end in three different ways. They end in either ER, IR or RE. We're going to be looking at some examples from each of those categories, ER, IR and RE, to help you to know how to form these verb endings. Now, when I'm talking about verb endings, you have to change the ER, IR or RE to a different ending depending on who you're talking about. So for example, if we take the infinitive, the main verb, jouer, which means to play, which ends in an ER. Jouer means to play. It doesn't mean I play or you play or he or she plays. And we need to know how to form those different parts of the verb. So let's start with ER verbs. These are the verbs that you've seen the most during our lessons so far. An example of an ER verb is on the board there, écouter, which means to listen. You can see that this is the infinitive, the verb. It's in the ER form. Now for any infinitive, whether it's ER, IR or RE, you need to, in order to break it down, to conjugate it is the fancy word for breaking it down into I, you, he, she. In order to break it down, you need to always take off the ending, the ER, the IR or the RE. And you need to add the correct ending, depending on who you're talking about. So we're going to have a look at that now for ER verbs. So we're going to break this down bit by bit. Écouter is your ER verb with the ER on the end. In order to change that to I listen or you listen or he, she or we listen, we need to take off the ER and add the correct ending. For je, the pronoun je, which means I, we take off the ER and add an E on the end. Now the reason why I don't just say take off the R is because it's good to get into the habit of just taking off the ER at all times. For tu, you listen, tu écoutes, you take off the ER and add ES onto the end. And for il, which means he, elle, which means she, or on, which is a simpler way of saying we, so he listens, she listens, or we listen, you take off the ER and you add an E. So j'écoute, I listen, tu écoutes, you listen, il, elle, or on écoute, he, she, or we listen. Now, usually you would have je up here and without the apostrophe. But because the verb begins with a vowel, we can't have these two vowels next to each other. So we take away that E and add an apostrophe. Still sticking with ER verbs here. We've taken off the ER and we've added the correct endings on for nous, vous, il and elle. Nous is we, so this is we listen. You take off the ER and add ONS. Vous, which means you lot, you use this to talk to a group of people or somebody you don't know well. You listen, vous écoutez, with an EZ on the end. We've taken off that ER and added EZ. And finally, for il and elle, which means they, you take off the ER and add ENT. Now, with the pronunciation here, the ENT, you don't actually pronounce. So it's il or elle écoute. You don't pronounce that ENT. Okay, so we've managed to tackle ER verbs, and now we're going to go on to IR verbs. The verb that we're going to use as an example to begin with is the verb choisir, which means to choose. Choisir is an IR verb in the infinitive, IR at the end there. Same again, we take off the IR and add the correct endings that we need. The endings are different from ER verbs though, so we need to make sure we're putting the correct endings on. So let's take a look at them. So there we go, I've got our main infinitive, our main verb at the top there with its IR ending. And at the moment that means to choose. And we can't say I to choose, you to choose, he, she, we to choose. We need to break it down, we need to conjugate it. So what we've done here, we've taken off the IR off the end. We've got je, tu, il, elle, on as our pronouns. We've taken off the IR here and we've added IS for je and IS again for tu. I choose, you choose. The third one, we haven't put on an IS, we've put on an IT instead. So it's IS, IS, IT. I choose, you choose, he, she, or we choose. Sticking with IR verbs and still on the verb choisir, to choose, as our example, we've taken off the IR for nous, vous, il and elle, and although these endings are a bit longer, the same principle applies. You take off the IR and you add on the correct ending. So for nous, we choose, we've taken off the IR and we've added on a longer ending of ISSONS, ils sont. Okay, so choisissons. Vous, what we've done is taken off the IR and made it choisissez. Okay, so we've still got that CHOIS. We've taken off that IR and we've just added the right ending on. Ils sont, issez, with an EZ at the end. ISSEZ. And then for il and elle, choisissent. I'm not pronouncing that ENT. It has to be there, but I'm not pronouncing it. So choisissent, CHOIS, that's our main bit, and the bit in blue is ISSENT. Okay, that's your ending. You take off the IR and you replace it with that for il and elle. We choose, you choose, they choose, depending on if you talk about a group of boys or mixed group of boys and girls, or just a group of girls for elle. Okay, so we're going to look at RE verbs now. We've looked at ER verb endings, we've looked at IR verb endings, and again, RE verb endings are different from both of those. An example of an RE verb or infinitive is on the board there. Attendre means to wait. Okay? Now we have that RE, just like we have with the ER and IR verbs, we take off those last two letters, RE, and we put the correct endings on. So here we are. We've got the infinitive up the top there, the RE, attendre, and we've taken off the RE and we've added the correct ending on. For je, or J apostrophe in this case, because the verb begins with a vowel, we've taken off the ER and we've just added an S. Same again for tu, an S. And lastly, for il, elle, or on, we haven't had to add anything. It's even simpler. I wait, you wait, he, she, we wait. Now this is where it begins to look very similar to ER verb endings. We've taken off that RE for nous, for we wait, and we've added ONS. For vous, for you wait, it's EZ, and for il and elle, it's ENT. These are the exact same endings for nous, vous, il and elle as ER verbs. Nous attendons, we wait, vous attendez, you wait, and il and elle attend, not pronouncing that ENT at the end, is they wait. So that's it, guys. You should now be able to conjugate ER, IR and RE verb endings in the present tense. That's for regular verbs that follow that pattern. There are a few sneaky ones, irregular ones, that don't follow that pattern, but the majority do. Don't forget to bring your sheet with you next lesson so we can work on this during lesson time. Make sure that you write down any issues or questions you might have so you can ask me during the lesson as well. Now remember, this is going to come up time and time again during our lessons over the next few weeks, and also for those who are going on to GCSE, it's super important that you get your head around this now, as the present tense is something that we use all the time.